his afternoon because of him. Tina and her family, we're all celebrating this afternoon as we move into the final night of the convention. Ladies and gentlemen, how about a final outstanding warm Ohio welcome for John Husted.
Buddy. All right.
All right, thank you. Vivek and I are going to have a conversation with you in just a second, but I want to do something first. First of all, this is my family. My wife Tina, my daughter Katie, and Kylie. And we're missing our son and daughter-in-law and granddaughter, but I want to say something to you, because we've talked about at this convention about how we're united, right, as Republicans. And J.D. Vance talked about last night about America being our home. And we're willing to fight for our home and our families. And this is my family. This is who I fight for every day. But we value service. We thank you as a family. I want all of you to know, we thank you for giving us the gift of service. The ability to serve you every single day. Where Tina does work with foster families and foster kids. Where Katie and Kylie understand the need to give back as they go to vacation Bible school when they're little ones, and now they help out now that they're older ones, right? That idea that we help and serve. And so we're grateful for that. But today, our theme is Made in Ohio. Right? That's the theme for this event. By the way, you can't do Made in America without Made in Ohio, because we make the things that people need to live and thrive every day. And we talk about Ohio being the heart of it all. The Governor DeWine, brought back that slogan for Ohio, the heart of it all. Isn't it the right theme for Ohio? Because here's the deal. From the food you eat, to the cars you drive, to the trucks that deliver, to the airplanes that fly, to the cloud that connects us all, and the chips that power our devices, that's what we do in Ohio. We make the things that people need. We have working people here. We fight for the heart and soul of our country. The defense industry is headquartered in Ohio. And making all those things. And it's made up of the people who are from the small towns that grow our food out in rural Ohio, to the Glass City, to the Gem City, to the great things that happen in our medical institutions. That's who we are as Ohioans. From the natural resources we harvest to the food we harvest, we make the things that people need. That's the heart and soul of who we are. And we know this. Donald Trump and J.D. Vance can't do Made in America without Made in Ohio. And we are celebrating that today in our state at this Made in Ohio event. And so the Husted family thanks you for giving us the opportunity to serve. And we are super excited to continue to do that as long as you'll have us. How about that? Well, now it's time to bring up my special guest for the day. Vivek Ramaswamy. Have you heard of him? Vivek, come on up here. So we have to tell a quick story. Vivek and I met through J.D. Vance.
That's right.
J.D. Called me one day and he said, "Hey, I have this friend. He's really talented. He grew up in Ohio. He loves our state, but he's wants to get more involved in politics here. Would you meet him? His name's Vivek Ramaswamy." I said, "Sure." And we struck up a friendship. And what I love about him is that in this era of politics where everybody wants to do talking points and wants to be safe about making sure that everything they say is measured and correct, he lets it go, man. He talks about the things that are on his heart and in his head and tries to advance a conversation in America about where we need to do and what it takes to make us great. And so, Vivek, thanks for joining us today, and let's sit down and have a conversation.
Thank you, guys. It's good to be here, everybody. Thanks for the welcome.
So this is such a great opportunity to see the Ohio delegation. I would love your reaction to what you thought about what J.D. Vance had to say last night.
I thought it was outstanding, and I know J.D. as you do personally for a long time. Somebody introduced me saying, you got your J.D. in 2013 from Yale Law School. And I said, yeah, they were referring to my law degree, but I said, no, I also got to know J.D. in law school. We used to be the only ones watching Bengals games together as the two lone conservatives in Yale Law School. Yeah, it was a little tough. It was a little tough while we were there. Things have gotten better since, but he's somebody who's truly sincere about his intentions for the country, and I am so proud, not only as an Ohioan, but just as a family friend, to see him in the position he's in. And I thought last night, it's hard to do that on the stage, right? In that kind of setting, it's very hard to give people a sense of who you are and what your character is, and I think he did it about as well as he possibly could. So as Ohioans, I think we should be incredibly proud of our man. I love him.
Yeah, he did a great job, and I tell you, we got questions about, well, what did J.D. need to do in his speech last night? And I said that he should show people who he really is, a husband and a father. But I thought when he talked about Mamaw having guns in every drawer in the house, that was kind of special. But I think that there were a lot of tears in the audience last night when he talked about his mom, 10 years clean, going through the tragedy of addiction and how she came through it and how amazing that was. Wasn't that an amazing thing for him to share? So part of the theme today, part of our theme of being here is Made in Ohio, and you can't do, as I said, Made in America without Made in Ohio, and we're doing a lot of great things. We, in working with Governor DeWine, we landed the largest economic development project in Ohio's history when we brought Intel here. But that's not just important for the Ohio economy, it's important for the American economy, because a lot of you may not know, we made 0% of the most high-tech computer chips in America. We depend on them being imported from Taiwan, China, and other places. And that put our national defense in jeopardy. That puts our national economic security in jeopardy. And that's why this was so important for our state and for our nation. And Vivek, you are a tech entrepreneur. You've built businesses. You've been successful. You understand the global nature of the economy and our national security. Talk about why Made in America and Made in Ohio is so important.
I'll start with the most foundational reason, right? You'll have a lot of debates in the Republican Party about trade policy or economic policy. Go to the most basic principle. We cannot depend on an enemy for our modern way of life, or at least for our own most security resources. Today, the U.S. depends on China for our military-industrial base, for 40% of the semiconductors that power equipment in our own U.S. military. It's the top supplier of the Navy, the Air Force, and the Army, and also our pharmaceutical supply chain. 95% of ibuprofen, so Advil or generic ibuprofen in your medicine cabinet, comes from China. Now, I don't mean to be histrionic about this, but this is literally the same country that by one means or another created a man-made virus in the lab. It was unleashed onto the world. That's providing the precursors to synthetic fentanyl to Mexican drug cartels south of our own border, infiltrating the country, responsible for upwards of 80,000 American deaths per year. That's the country we rely on for 95% of our pharmaceuticals, for our military-industrial base, and for the semiconductors that power those phones or these lights in this tent right now. So I think that no matter where you land on other economic questions, our own national security demands we can't depend on an adversary for our modern way of life, and bringing production plants not only to Ohio but across this country, but especially to Ohio, secures our own modern way of life to say, God forbid, we're in a conflict scenario with Taiwan. At least we don't have a gun hanging over our own modern way of life and our own economy as a consequence. So that's an accomplishment, and I'm glad to see it happening in places like Ohio as well.
It is essential because it is, look, we cannot be dependent on our adversaries for the industrial base, the tech base that we need to keep our economic and national security in this country. And so all of this is very important. One of the places I was the other day, I had a lot of people donate things to this, and I hope you're going to be part of the raffle. I was at a company outside of Cincinnati the other day where they make the largest non-nuclear bomb in the American arsenal. Bet you didn't know that was made in Ohio. I bet it's amazing. It's a bunker buster. If Iran gives us trouble with the nuclear plan, man, I think we got a solution for them coming from Ohio. But we're the number one supplier to the defense industry for Boeing, Airbus, and others. And it's just amazing what we do in our state, and it's so critical that we do this for the future. Now, I want to shift gears for a second. Vivek is the son of immigrants who came here to live their version of the American dream. And yet, immigration, illegal immigration, is at the heart of maybe the most important issue in this campaign in the eyes of the American people. And you have some really unique insights and personal experiences and observations that I know we've talked about where America needs to be on immigration. And why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Look, my perspective is, and I say this as the kid of immigrants who came to this country legally through the front door, worked hard. My dad works at the GE plant in Evendale, Ohio. He worked hard. My mom worked in the VA in Cincinnati and then ended up treating patients with Alzheimer's disease in nursing homes across greater Cincinnati. These are people who came to this country with nothing. And I have founded multi-billion-dollar companies, married my wife, Apurva. We're raising our kids back home now. That is the American dream. And I'm worried that American dream doesn't exist for so many Americans today. But part of the reason why is that we have a mass crisis of illegal mass migration into the country. And the reason I do favor hard-line southern border policies, even hard-line deportation policies, is not because they're bad people. Well, I'll take that. Thank you. I will. Because actually, it's worth saying this. If we've had the largest influx of illegal immigration into this country in our country's history, it stands to reason we have to have the largest mass deportation in American history. It's just logic, right? It's not racist or xenophobic. It's what it means to stand for the rule of law. And I said this in my speech, not because all illegal immigrants are bad people. Many of them are not. And in fact, they came here because you have a current administration that's given them a wink and a nod to come over. The reason why is we're a nation founded on the rule of law. Now, do we require an immigration system that also allows the best and brightest to come here and make contributions to the United States of America if they share our national values and actually owe allegiance to this country? Absolutely. That's in the best interest of the citizens who are here. So if I'm to summarize maybe immigration policy, it's a controversial issue now. In a nutshell, here's 3 principles for immigration policy in the U.S. No migration without consent. Consent should only be granted to the migrants who benefit America and share our values. And number 3 is those who enter without consent must be removed. I think those are principles that Democrats and Republicans alike can get behind, actually. This should not be a partisan issue. And once we fix the southern border crisis, I think we actually unite this country. I went to the south side of Chicago during the Republican primary. It was a place where the campaign advisors, and actually my campaign team is a great team from Ohio, actually, but they said, you're wasting your time and money. Why are you doing this? And I have to admit, they probably had a point because I got 4th in the Iowa caucus here. But I got a lot from the trip because this is a room that's probably the size of this one. It was 95% black. I'm told afterward that it was 150% Democrat. I'm not sure how they do the counting in Chicago. But what we had in that room was common ground, that it was wrong, that they were turning South Shore High School into an encampment for illegal migrants at a cost of $7,000 per migrant per month, when people in that community were rightly asking me, what about us, who were born and living in this country legally, following the rules, yet are seeing those who broke the law rewarded more than those in the community. That's why I think this is not only an important issue, John, for reviving the country, and not only obviously an important issue for President Trump and our party, but I think this can be an issue where by taking a principled stand on both illegal and legal immigration, we're going to unite this country, and I think that's going to be a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I think that's right. You use the term unite the country, but the country can only be united when we have a common set of values that are how we want and do what we want. These are the values that unite us out there. It's outlined in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, but I summarize it like this, and I know sometimes when we talk, there are very similar themes in how we do it. I always say this is the most important values that I feel we have as a nation are hard work, meaning we value people who work and those, and we should reward them when they do. That's a virtue. It's a virtue to live hard, work, and to live with dignity. Hard work, personal responsibility. The person in the mirror is accountable to what goes on in your life. Hard work, personal responsibility. Family. The best way to raise a child is through a family and to help put policies in place that support families. So hard work, personal responsibility, family, faith, freedom, patriotism. These are our founding values to me, and that's what I think America has gone from, that our policies do not support our values, and they do things that undermine the family, that don't support people who want to live a life of faith, and that the government stands in the way of us being able to execute those values in life. I know that we agree wholeheartedly about the need for values and have common things that unite us as a nation. I want you to talk about that for a second.
Yeah, I think this is everything right now. Do we actually have a common set of values that unite all of us across our diversity, or don't we? That's the question ahead of us. I believe we do. I think much of the myth of national division is actually just that, is a myth projected by the media, perpetrated by social media, that creates the artificial appearance of division when actually most people, not in Washington, D.C., and not in the media, but most human beings you meet in the country, most Americans you meet in this country, actually still share those values in common. A belief that you get to speak your mind freely as long as I get to in return. Right? A belief in merit, that the best person gets the job, regardless of their race or their gender or their sexuality. That's a core American idea. It's really important to every person in this country. The rule of law, that if you follow the rules, you get ahead, and if not, you're held accountable. The basic idea that, here's one, John, the people we elect to run the government ought to be the ones who actually run the government, not the shadow government that's actually pulling the strings today with unelected bureaucrats. I think most Americans are united around these ideals. They're not red or blue or black or white. Now, the question is, how do we revive that in our country? This is where I want to see the Republican Party step up. And I'm not criticizing anybody else, but even myself here, when I think about my journey in this country over the last few years after I stepped down from my job as a CEO. I wrote Woke Inc. I wrote a number of other books. But it's not enough just to criticize the poison that the other side gives us. Race, gender, sexuality, climate. That's not enough. We have to level up and offer an alternative vision of our own. Who are we and what do we actually stand for? They're the things that John just talked about. The individual, that you are you. There's only ever one you. You're not riding some tectonic plate of group identity. You're endowed, made by your Creator, with certain gifts that you have the chance to use to achieve anything you want with your own hard work and dedication. The family, the nuclear family, is the greatest form of governance known to mankind. The nation, that I'm a citizen of this nation, the United States of America, not some global citizen fighting climate change somewhere, but a citizen of this nation, the greatest nation known to man, and that we are one nation, I will say it, under God. That's not a four-letter word. And so think about it. individual, family, nation, and God beat race, gender, sexuality, and climate if we have the courage to actually stand for our own vision. And so we can blame the left all we want, right? Yep. In some ways, I've done a lot of that. Our side does a lot of that. We need to do some of that to expose the problem. But that's only going to get us so far. The way we're going to save this country is with our own vision of who we are. And I see Donald Trump right now. I spoke to him at 12:30 a.m. the night after that bullet did strike him, but nearly struck him far worse. It's like they say, water rolls off a duck. Bullet rolled off Donald Trump. He was perfectly in a good mood, and we had a nice little chat at 12:30 a.m. But I do think that something like that doesn't happen. Us. And if there's some silver lining that comes out of it, let it be for the better, that more of those Americans, whether or not they're the kind that would show up at Republican convention, say, you know what, we are united on those basic principles. And no, we don't want the fake unity that lasts for 2 weeks. We want the real thing grounded in the actual real ideals. I think they still exist, and I think you hit on the most important topic for our country.
And what I love about it is that it's our values that unite us. And I know that we're guilty. It's easy to always point to the left, but we have to be clear about what we're for and provide that vision, and those values, I think, are what ground us all and what we got to fight for. So I know we only have a couple more minutes with you because you have some important places to go. But we're in the midst of a campaign right now. And so you ran for president. You faced down the national media. You know the battles that are out there. And right now, everything feels good. We're at the Republican convention. Why couldn't it feel good? We've got the president. We've got J.D. Vance. But we all know that this is not over. That the national media, and by the way, as we're sitting here today, we still don't even know who Donald Trump's going to be running against, because it appears that Barack Obama is trying to engineer Joe Biden out and someone else in. I thought they believed in democracy, but they won an election and now they want a new candidate. But we're going to face some difficult times facing these very tough people who will not give up on the radical left of wanting to win this election. I want your thoughts on what we have to do and what you think we'll face.
So look, my own view is you can make any prediction whether the specifics are going to be right or wrong, doesn't matter. It's the principle. They're waiting for this convention to be over because they want to have full information when they make the choice of putting up the best possible nominee that they're going to put up. And I personally believe that is neither Joe Biden nor Kamala Harris. It's going to be likely someone else altogether. That's my view. But it doesn't matter. We don't have to be distracted by the shenanigans of what happens on the other side if we have a clear-eyed view of who we are ourselves. That's the only way we insulate ourselves. There was a red wave that never came in 2022. In this moment of celebration, I don't want to be the wet blanket on the party, but I'll speak the truth. I think there's a real risk that we anticipate another red wave that never comes this year as well. I think we can't just win this election by a little bit. I think we've got to win it by a lot. And a landslide minus some margin, if we'll call it that, is still a victory. And I think we're skating on thin ice as a country where I don't think we get a do-over. There's no mulligan on this election. If my two sons, and that's what pulled me into this at the time you and I had that first phone call, one of the things that had changed is my older son had just been born that year. And it changed my perspective on everything. I mean, this country, and in so many ways Ohio, gave our family something that neither my mother nor father imagined was possible in this country when they arrived in Cincinnati. My dad did in the late 70s. And as a father of now two sons, I truly don't think that same American dream is going to be available to them unless we step up and do something about it. And if Karthik, my older guy, the one who was born shortly before we met, if he's in high school before we get this right, I don't think we have a country left. Not the same country, certainly, that we know. And so I think this is our last chance to get this right, and that's going to require all of us to make our sacrifice. That's part of what pulled me into public service. You've been serving this the public. We met with Governor DeWine's been serving the public for a lot longer than I have. But we all have our own sacrifice to make. And we talk about our founding fathers in glowing terms. That's easy. It's a lot harder to remember what happened to them, actually. There's 56 men who signed the Declaration of Independence. What happened to them? 12 of them had their homes burned to the ground by the British. 5 of them were captured by the British and tortured until their deaths. 9 of them died in the Revolutionary War. 3 more of them had their kids die in the Revolutionary War. They were well off. They were landowners. They were privileged, people might say today. That's what made their sacrifice all the more admirable. And I do think it's a 1776 kind of moment in the country now. And I mean that in the most positive way. That was a special time to be alive. I think it's a special time to be alive right now. And I think we have a chance and a responsibility to make the sacrifice needed in the next 4 months. We get it not just for the next 4 years, but the next 250 years, the blessings of that. And I'm so grateful to people like you, John, for serving this state in the way you have. So many of you, new friends, looking at George right there, and so many friends across the board. Warren, you don't have to be doing what you're doing. You're doing it because you care about this country. But I think this year more than ever matters, not just in a way a normal election does, but matters for, I think, the continued existence of the United States, seeing an enemy that we're up against, but it is an ideology, not our fellow citizen. And if we view it that way, we will still be one United States of America when Donald Trump is sworn in and J.D. Vance are sworn in January 20th next year. So thank you guys for having me.
Vivek, thanks for joining us today. I know he's got to hit the road. He's got to go do something, but thanks for being with us.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you guys back.
Be well, buddy.
All right,
God bless you, okay? Always.
We're just getting started. We've got a lot more fun planned for today.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Come here.
One second. Evadale.
Thank you. It's my hometown. As you know.
Hey, I wanted to see if you're back in Cincinnati, if you've got some time out.
I would love that.
Okay.
I would love that. I live in Columbus, as you know. Yeah, but my parents are in Cincinnati. Good to see you guys. Thank you.
I'll let you push. I appreciate you, buddy.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Good to see you guys. Good to see you. Yes, absolutely. We'll see you
I
guys.
am Chair of Tech and Innovation.
We'll see you guys in Ohio. I may see you. I may come by to good to see you. I may come by to Florida tonight. Sit with you guys. That'd be fun. We'll see you guys. Thank you. I would love that. Okay. I would love it. Thank you. Hey. Thank you.
Appreciate you coming.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much. Hey. Home state tent in Wisconsin. It's good. There's our people. I mean, some of these people know since I was growing up. The chairman of the party there, I met him when I was 18 years old. Believe it or not, he was working in Cincinnati. My piano teacher was actually a friend of him. Put us together. 20 years later, he's the party chairman, and I'm doing whatever it is I'm doing. So, anyway.
Will President Biden still be in the race this time next week?
I think he won't be in the race this time next month. That's my prediction.
Thank you.
You guys got Gavin?